Hello everyone and welcome back to the Time Gaming. I think it is safe to assume that you click on this video because you want to learn how to play Battle Spirits in standard format, but if you are lost, Battle Spirits is a trading card game designed by Mike Elliott and is currently the only original IP under Pandai Card Games. The main unique point of Battle Spirits are its card system, the main resource that you use to play and strengthen your cards, and the player interaction in the flash timing. It was first published in Japan in 2008 with several international releases under its original name in English, Italian, and Indonesian, as well as Battle Spirit Saga in 2023. While unfortunately none of its international releases are still ongoing, the Japanese version just started its 18th year with a complete overhaul in the Shinkaiho project, where a currently running series will continue in the Eternal format, while a rotational format called the Standard format would start. The game have 11 anime so far, with the 12 series Sekai no Ku coming up this fall 2026. Lastly, while the game is only currently available in Japanese, there are tons of English resources maintained by its dedicated community, so I will still encourage you to try it out even if you don't understand Japanese. Before we start, a little disclaimer that due to the Galactic Battle Spirits rule, I would use terminologies that are used in the official English rule manual for Battle Spirits, since that exists, which might be different from the ones that are used by the dedicated team behind the Battle Spirits English wiki. Also, as a visual guide, I might use cards that they have translated into English for their vessel extensions, but the original cards are currently only available in Japanese. Since we are talking about the standard format today, when I say Battle Spirits, I do mean the Battle Spirits in standard format, and we will talk about Eternal when we talk about Eternal. Finally, today we will be focusing on the very basics so that you can start playing your first game of Battle Spirits, but if there are any advanced topic that you want us to cover first, or if you have any questions, do feel free to comment down below. Now that we get that out of the way, here is how you play Battle Spirits in standard format. In Battle Spirits, we have three main card types: Spirit, Nexus, and Magic. To put it simply, Spirits are cards that stays on your field and is your main way to damage your opponent. Nexus are cards that also stays on the field, but while they cannot damage your opponent, they can activate effects that supports your game. And finally, Magic are pretty much one-time use cards that allows you to perform actions such as drawing more cards, removing opposing spirits or Nexus, or power up your spirits. From among these card types, you can bring 3 cards with the same name to form an at least 40 cards deck. It is probably a good time to introduce you to the core system. The core is a game piece that you use to represent resources that you use to play your card. And while they do style this nice and sparkly official cores, you can pretty much use any other counters such as cards, coins, or dices, as long as they cannot be confused with the cards in your deck, and you can provide one distinct marker to be used as your soul core. More on that later. So whether you are summoning Gungata, deploying the Wild Witherlands, or using Vortex Shave, you pay the same 4 cost to play each card. The advantage of playing cards of the same color comes from this reduction symbol beside the card's cost, where you reduce the cost to play the card for each symbol of the same color on your field up to the number of the reduction symbols. So as an example, if you want to play this Viraiba, while you already have the Violet Witherlands on your field, since you have one purple symbol on your field, and Viraiba has a purple reduction symbol, you can summon Viraiba at 1 less cost at 2 costs. However, if you want to summon a second Viraiba, since it only has 1 reduction symbol, even though you currently have 2 purple symbols on your field, the cost of the second Viraiba can only be reduced by 1, so you will still be summoning it at 2 costs. Costs are then paid by moving cards from your reserve or cards on your field to the trash according to the total cost after reductions. To recap a little bit, if you want to play this Magic Blood Sip next, you'll show it to your opponent, confirm its costs and reductions, which in this case will be 4 costs with 2 reductions, move 2 cards from your field or reserve to the trash, then resolve its effects. One other thing that you might want to take note of is that Battle Spirits work on a do as much as you can basis. So if you play Blood Sip when your opponent has no spirits on their field, it will resolve without any target, and you will still lose the 2 cards that you used to pay for the cost. Now you might notice that during my previous explanation, I put cards on my Viraibas. It is because Spirit and Nexuses need to be level 1 to stay on the field. A card is considered to be on a certain level when you put enough cards on top of it to match its level cost. Nexus will generally need 0 cards to be at level 1, while Spirits will generally need 1 card to be at level 1. With my second Viraiba, since it has 3 cards on it, which matches its level 2 cost, it is currently at level 2. At level 2, not only the Spirit will have higher PP, but Spirits and Nexuses might have effects that only activates in their higher levels. With Spirits and Nexuses, after you show them to your opponent, confirming the cost and pay for them, you can put any number of cards from your reserve or cards on your field to make it at least level 1. To recap, If you want to deploy a second Violet Witherlands, you show it to your opponent, confirm the cost and reductions, which in this case will be 4 costs with 2 reductions, move 2 cards from your field or reserve to the trash, put it on your field, then you have a chance to put cards on it from your reserve or cards on your field. Now that you are more familiar with how to pay the cost and play your cards, we have been keeping all the cards on our field for the demonstration, but what if we want to summon our postcard Emperor Perigoro after both of our Viraibas have been destroyed by the opponent? In the standard format, they introduce this new mechanic called Succession, where in addition to symbols on your field, you can banish, that is, to remove the cards from the game completely, cards with the CX symbol of the same color as its reductions to reduce the cost. For our case, since we have played Bloodship that has a purple EX symbol, when we summon Emperor Perigoro on top of the symbols of our Violet Witherlands, we can banish that Bloodship from our trash for a total of 3 reductions, so that we can summon Emperor Perigoro with 6 cores instead of 7. After all this effort to bring out your postcard, the Emperor Perigoro, you might want to bring it to level 2 so that it can attack without being blocked by smaller spirits. But of course, unlike our demonstration in the real world, you wouldn't always have that extra 3 cores to bring it to level 2. That is where the titular mechanic, Shinkai Ho, translated as Super Unleash, comes into play. Super Unleash is a state that a card can achieve when they reach a level that is associated with their Super Unleash condition, which for the case of our Emperor Perigoro is tied to its level 2. But Super Unleash doesn't only give your cards a fancy title that affects its interaction with other cards, but also give them an alternative condition to reach that level. So for Emperor Perigoro, it will be level 2 when it has at least 4 cores on it or just your soul core on it. Now that we have seen one of the reasons that make this once per player per game soul core so special, we have been talking about spirits and accesses so much, so let's give some love to the magics as well. While some magic like Rainy Poison might have succession, we also have the last mechanic for standard, the soul magic. Soul magics like Soul Bite have an alternative cost that you can use when you have the symbols that it specifies on your field. So while you have no options but to pay the whole 6 cost when you have nothing on your field, if you have at least 1 Viraiba, and even if it holds your last core, that is a soul core, you can instead play Soul Bite by sending your soul core from your Viraiba to the trash. Now that has been pretty long, but so far we have learned the type of cards that are available to you in Battle Spirits, how to pay the cost to play them, how you can build your deck, how to manage their levels, and all the new mechanics that they introduced to play your cards easier. If you are tired, please feel free to pause the video, get some snacks, get some drinks, and we'll continue with how you start to prepare for an actual game and use your cards to actually win the game. Now that you have your 40 plus cards deck, your 1 soul core, and enough cores to rebuild the Great Wall of China, you are ready to start the game. First, you shuffle your deck and put them in the deck area. Second, you take 5 cores and put them on your life. This will be your starting life. Then you take your soul core and 3 normal cores and put them on your reserve. Soul cores generally functions like normal cores, but there are some effects and mechanics that would benefit from you having your soul core in a specific location. So that's another layer that you will need to consider. The rest of the cores that you haven't used yet are put in the void outside of the game. Now that your field is set, you draw 4 cards from your deck. You may see the contents, but make sure to keep them a secret from your opponent. You then use a random method such as rock, paper, scissors or a dice roll to decide who can choose the turn order. For example, if I win the dice roll, then I get to choose who will go first and who will go second. After the play order has been decided, starting from the player who will go first, they may choose to do a mulligan. Once both players have decided whether they want to do a mulligan, the players who wants to do the mulligan returns all of the cards in their hand, shuffle them, and then draw 4 new cards. You have one and only one chance to do a mulligan, so you cannot redo your mulligan even if you are not satisfied with your second hand. At this point, we have talked about some of the components of your playing field, so let's take a look at the ones that we haven't discussed yet. First is the field, where the cards that stay on your field, generally your spirits and nexuses, stay on your field until they are destroyed or depleted. There is no limit to how many cards you can have on your field, and you don't have to arrange your cards in any particular order. Putting your spirit in front or behind your nexus are both fine, so just arrange them in an order that is clearer for you. Next up, we have the trash. It is divided into your core trash and card trash. Cards that you use to pay cost will generally go here unless stated otherwise, and will go back to your reserve during the refresh step of your turn. The card trash, as its name implies, hold cards that have been destroyed or played. First of all, since you start with 5 cards in your life area, naturally you would win when you destroyed all cards in your opponent's life area. You destroyed these cards with your spirits. We'll go into the details of how you can do that soon, but basically, when their attacks connect, the spirits will destroy the same amount of cards as their symbols, regardless of colors. So whether it's Viraiba or Emperor Perigoro, they will inflict 1 damage just the same when their attacks connect. I did say firstly, so there should be another one, right? Because when you have 0 cards in your deck during your start step, you automatically lose even if you still have 5 lives. I would like to emphasize once again that a state check for a deck out happens during that player's start step, not when they are required to draw, nor the instant where they ran out of cards in their deck. So if you mill your opponent until they have one card left in their deck and you end your turn, for the most part that means they still have one turn left to beat you up. But of course this is a trading card game where we are all about procedures, so let's talk about. Before we start, a turn in a game of Wild Spirits are divided into 8 different steps. The start step, the core step, the draw step, the refresh step, the main step, the attack step, a second main step, and then the end step. While you wouldn't get a core step, attack step, or the second main step during your first turn going first, these steps cannot be skipped. You may do nothing in that step and directly end that step, but you cannot stop it from happening. This can be important for cards such as Fork Claw, that has an effect that activates at the start of the opposing attack step. You know, sometimes you are still setting up, so you might not want to attack yet, but especially if your opponent has a Fork Claw on their field, you still have to enter your attack step and feed one of your spirits to the God of Destruction Grogoroth. Also, just like Fork Claw, there might be effects that activate specifically when you enter or leave a step, so I will focus on the exclusive function of these steps, as those cards will let you know when they need to activate in these specific steps. Start step marks the beginning of your turn, but its most important function is as a check timing for deck outs. As I've mentioned before, if you have no cards in your deck during your start step, you lose the game. So if you have 1 card left in the deck, you are safe. If you have 0 cards in your deck, say goodbye to anything and everything that you hold dear. Core step. So far you have seen a demonstration where we use infinite cores and also the preparation where we start with 4 cores in our reserve. So how do you get more cores? The core step will be your main way to gain your cores, as you can take 1 core from the void and put it in your reserve. Do note that this step is skipped during your very first turn if you are going first. So you will start with less cores than the player going second, but you get a chance to build your reductions first, so it is not all downsides. Draw step. You draw 1 card from the deck, and again, since this is not the start step, if you draw your last card and your deck becomes 0, you will not lose the game and you can still continue the rest of your turn. Refresh step. So far we have learned that when you pay for cost, the cost you use to pay the cost goes to your core trash. In this step, you move all the cards from your core trash back to your reserve so you can use them again for that turn. Not just that, if you have cards that stays on your field that are exhausted, such as your Spirit and Nexus, they refresh exactly once. Of course, refreshing your cards doesn't mean giving them a nice cold beverage on a hot summer day. When we play our Spirits and Nexuses, they start in the upright position that we refer to as the refresh state. When you use the cards to perform actions such as attacking or to pay the cost for effects, you exhaust them by turning them sideways into the exhausted state. Therefore, refreshing a card means you return them to their previous state. So when you have an exhaust spirit and they got refreshed, they return to the refreshed state. Now my wording may seem complicated, but that's because some cards like the Armored Hand Squid have the ability to heavy exhaust, which turns your cards into the downright heavy exhausted state. So heavy exhausted cards becomes exhausted when they are refreshed. Main step. Now this is the step where you play your cards to prepare your field to beat down your opponent. You will summon your spirits, deploy a Nexus, or play a Magic's main or flash effect. But if you still remember the level mechanics of this game, this will also be your chance to move your cards between your reserve and the cards on your field to level them up or down to get the best out of them. You might remember the Super Unleash mechanic from before and ask the question, what if my soul core is in my Mushako and my only other core is one normal core on my Genbo? Can I still move my soul core to my Genbo without sacrificing my Mushako? The good news is that you are still not too late. Switching soul cores between spirits are still okay. So in this case, you will be able to move your soul core to Genbo while keeping your Mushako as well. So that begs another question. What if I don't want to keep my Mushako? What if I just want to plug its core and put it on my Genbo? They will be depleted, which is a little bit different than being destroyed because effects that activate when your spirits are destroyed will not trigger from a depletion. In fact, this is the main way for purple to kind of like remove cards from the opposing field. So while destroyed and depleted cards will end up in the trash all the same, depletion will be one more thing that you should consider when managing your cores during your main step. Attack step. This step is skipped during your first turn going first, but now we are in the most action-packed step in the game. As even in the Eternal format, the focus is still on kinda limiting what your opponent can do during the attack step, in spite of whatever ungodly combo that they have done in their main step. But of course, we are here to attack our opponents, and as we have learned so far, you do that by using your spirit. In order to do an attack, you choose one of your refreshed spirit and exhaust it to declare an attack. Attacks are done one spirit at a time. Now that you have declared an attack, continuous effects and while attacking effects will start to activate. On top of that, effects that activates when a spirit attack and when attacking effects will trigger as well. If multiple effects are activated at the same time, you as the turn player get to choose which one activates first. So if you attack with Apocrypha at level 2, while you have a level 2 floating orchard, you get to choose whether you want to draw one first or buff Apocrypha with the floating orchard first. Now that all effect has been resolved, we reach the most exciting part of the battle, the flash timing, where you can play cards like Flame Hurricane to counter your opponent and destroy their spirit before they can destroy you. If you have played other card games where you can play cards during the opposing turn, you might ask me, I have all these chances to play my Flame Hurricane before this Pogrifo got buffed by the Floating Orchard and becomes too big for my Flame Hurricane. Why should I wait? It is because the flash timing is currently the only time where you can play cards during the opposing turn in standard format.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
Now that we get that out of the way, in the flash timing, you can play the flash effect of Spirit and Nexus on your field or the flash effect of cards in your hand. The fun news is that flash timing is fairly simple and intuitive. Starting from the defending player, you have a chance to play a flash effect and completely resolve it. Neither you nor your opponent will be able to play another effect before the current one resolves. Of course, you also have the option to skip your flash timing. Now whether the blocking player played or skipped their flash timing, you as the attacking player now have a chance to play your flash. So you can buff your spirits or remove the opposing blockers. Likewise, you can also skip it if you want to save it for later. If the attacking player skips their flash timing after the defending player skips theirs, the flash timing will end, and no more cards can be played during this flash timing. However, the flash timing will not end even if the attacking spirit is destroyed or depleted during the flash timing. So just a little recap, if the defending player B skips their flash timing and the attacking player A also skips their flash timing, this flash timing will end. However, if the defending player B skips their flash timing but the attacking player A activates their flash, then the flash timing will continue until the defending player B skips, followed by player A skips. Now that we are done with the first flash timing, the defending player have a choice whether to block with one of their refresh spirits or to take the damage with their lives. Since we will skip to battle resolution for the latter, let's start with the case where the defending player chooses to block. Just like attacking, in order to block, you choose one of your refresh spirits and exhaust them to declare the block. Likewise, all related continuous effects and while blocking effects will start to activate. Accordingly, effects that activates when a spirit blocks and when blocking effects will trigger here. Unfortunately for the defending player though, when multiple effects are triggered at the same time, the attacking player is still the one who gets to decide which one will activate first. The good news though is that once the block has been declared, your life will not be reduced. So your small Atun here will have done its job before the absolutely gigantic Elephas stomp every living fiber out of Atun. Now then the solution sounds easy, right? Just block with a spirit that has a higher BP. Not so fast because it is time for the blocking flash timing. It works pretty much the same with the first flash timing, so it is still started by the defending player and it still ends when the defending player skips, followed by the attacking player skips. But as the attacking player, now that you know that you actually need your buff that have extra costs, you can use them now that you actually need them. And as for the defending player, now that you know that your life will not be reduced, you can use the core on your blocking spirits to play magic cards to prevent further attacks. So whether you play your cards during the first flash timing to kind of discourage your opponent from blocking, or save them for the second flash timing so that you can minimize the damages, managing this is the beauty of the flash timing. Now that we have finished our shouting match during the flash timing, it is time to finally resolve the battle. If the defending player chooses not to block and the attacking spirit survives the flash timing, then the defending player simply move cards from their life to their reserve equal to the number of symbols on the attacking spirit. So whether you get slammed by Puffer or Giganteleon, your life will be reduced by 1. But if your opponent manages to gain a symbol with Gigant Keres or Ember Mima, then your life will be reduced by 2. So you see here that when your life is reduced, the course goes to your reserve. So as the defending player, you don't really have to block every single attack, as that can also be a strategy to kind of like take in some damage first so that you can play your bigger cards faster. But of course, as the attacking player, as long as you take this into account, you can still choose to play aggressively because let's face it, you don't need to defend yourself against a dead opponent. If the defending player chooses to block and both the attacking spirit and the blocking spirit survives the flash timing, we will now conclude the PP comparison. Pretty simply, spirits with lower PP will be destroyed and sent to the trash. And when they have the same PP, they will both be destroyed and get sent to the trash. Any spirits that are destroyed during the PP comparison will be treated as they have been destroyed by the opponent, so both when destroyed effects and when destroyed by the opponent effects will trigger here. After all effects have been resolved, this one single battle will finally end, and all continuous effects that are activated for that battle would also cease to be active. If you still have a refresh spirit after this, you may choose to attack again, or you may end your attack step. Main step 2. The second main step is a new addition to standard, and while what you can do in this step is perfectly identical to the first main step, so you can summon a spirit, deploy a nexus, play a magic's main and flash effect, as well as moving your course, the second main step added a depth to the game because it allows you to set up for blockers, and you can move your soul core to your cards with super unleash that are stronger during the opposing turn, or even use the cores on your spirits that have done attacking to play draw magic to prepare for your next turn. Your limit is the sky, and of course the number of your cores and the cards in your hand. And yes, this step is skipped during your first turn going first. End step. This marks the end of your turn, so it's time to take a deep breath before you pass the turn to your opponent and make peace that the turn may never come back to you. At this point, we have learned a lot. We have learned what the cards are available to you, how to build your deck, how to prepare a game, how a typical turn would look like, and even how you win the game. Now, of course, in this video, we covered the very basic to get you to play your first game of Battle Spirits, so we do plan to cover more advanced topics in the future, but if there are anything unclear, do let us know in the comments below. And do subscribe to the channel for more Battle Spirit stuff. I guess that has been everything that we can share for this time. That has been everything from me, Theodore Lu, your host. We hope that you guys have a nice week going forward, and we'll see you all next time. Bye bye!